back on the floor and play again?
Definitely frustrating to not open up conference the way that we wanted, but having that time off with our family to kind of restore and relax and recenter helped us to come back in. The day after Christmas, we came back in and had a lift that night and some conditioning, and I've, of course, practiced every day since then in preparation for Oklahoma State, but just knowing that we have to come out and do better and be more focused on executing our game plans and just being more together whenever we're playing moving forward.
I guess, Jana, how did you spend Christmas break, and how ready again are you to get back on the floor and play again?
I had a wonderful Christmas break with my family and a couple of my teammates. Yes, the loss did put a damper on that. It's frustrating. But same as Bella said, we're more locked in now than I think we ever have been, and we're just ready to move forward.
Jenna, from the Texas Tech game, what are a couple of the big things you take away? Of course, you're playing without Talia for all but 2 minutes, but what are a couple big things you take away that you want to maybe improve on against OSU?
Yeah, I think as a team, we need to just work on our communication a little bit, our toughness. We need to be the first to the floor on all plays, working together a little bit better, and just playing with confidence, every single person, and knowing what Bella's good at, what Markayla's good at, and just playing to those strengths. I think every game we're getting to know each other more, and so we're getting better, and that's what we're focusing on.
Bella, is defense something that you hope travels up to Stillwater, Oklahoma State #3 scoring team in the country? How important is it to be focused on the defensive end going into this game?
Very, very, very important. They have a really good roster, and they have several people that average 10-plus points. They have some really, really good shooters. They're a great three-point shooting team. But I think that's something that we're capable of taking away well. We're coached in a way that we're supposed to run people off the three-point line, make them play 2 by 2 by 2 instead of giving up back-to-back threes, because that busts that gap open in games. So just being really focused on that, making sure that we know our personnel, we're communicating, and just being kind of on a string in our defensive rotations to take away their actions.
And Jana, for you, with Talia being out or sidelined last couple of games, how have you been able to pick your spots when to take the shot or pass it? Has that been has that been hard to do over the last couple of games?
I think when any key player is out, it is a little bit challenging to just kind of figure out where the holes need to be filled, stuff like that. But I think that we've done a great job adjusting, and people are stepping up, and we're doing. Some people have to take more shots now, or I'm gonna have to take more shots than I had to do before. But I do miss Talia, and yeah.
And you said that the team is, more motivated, right, than they have been. Is that sort of response what you expected after the Texas Tech game? Is that kind of what you hope to see from the rest of the group?
Yeah, I don't think we're a group that loses the first conference game and is like, oh, okay, let's throw the towel in. That's not us. We're going to fight tooth and nail all the time, and yeah.
Jana, 40 minutes, back-to-back games. How do you feel coming off an injury, injured season last year? But how do you feel physically and playing that amount of minutes?
I feel great. I'm fine. Yeah, I actually spend a lot of time getting in shape and preparing my body for these types of things. And so, I mean, any player who plays 40 minutes is going to be sore and tired, but I got my teammates and they help me. We have cold tubs and Shalisa, and so it's fine.
Yes. You're taking it like a champ. We appreciate your sacrifice of your body every time.
Bella, you talked about how key defense is going to be in this game against Oklahoma State, but what else stands out about them, and what are you guys really focusing in heading into this one?
They're just a scrappy team. They're tough. Like Jana said, we have to be first to the floor, because if not, they're going to come up with those 50-50 balls, rebounds and steals and all of those things. And what makes them really good is they get into their actions fast. So if they don't have something in transition when that happens, they're going to get into a quick ball screen. They're going to get into a quick flare, any type of backside action, and get really good open looks. So we have to make sure that we're kind of controlling that pace of the game and being there on time, guarding guarding their actions really well and communicating. But they're a solid team. They're a really good team. So we have to come and bring our best whenever we go down there to Stillwater. Sick 'em.
Thanks, guys.
how do you handle that part of it, and then particularly coming off a loss, how do you handle that?
It was a long break. I think that I remember our first year we lost to Michigan, heading into the break. It's never fun. It sits with you longer. It was a lot more fun when we went on the road last year at Kansas, but I also think that, every team has to find its way, and you find it in different ways. And, I don't think we did enough to win the basketball game, and we were close. But, it's one stop. It's one better execution. I mean, we've talked a lot about our screening, about getting open, about communication, so I think it allows you to come back hungry and motivated, and it doesn't get any easier. Oklahoma State's a very good basketball team, so you don't have a lot of time to come back and get acclimated, and you always encourage your players to do something over a break, but the reality is they usually don't, and you understand why they don't, but it usually takes you 2 days just to get them back physically and mentally to be really focused. But if you want to do the things you say that your goals were, then you got to put in the work, and talk is talk, and so we got to work. I think that's the biggest thing is we have to work.
How's Talia doing, or what's the update on her?
Yeah, I mean, she's back in practice, but we're still, being careful with her and limiting her in terms of reps. And so, but I think she's getting a little better each day. So hopefully she's closer to 100%. But, I think we'll leave that up to her and Shalisa in terms of what she's truly capable of doing.
You never want to play without your leading scorer, but were there any benefits, anything you can take away from those mostly 2 games that you played without her?
Yeah, I thought the biggest takeaway is I really only look at Texas Tech, honestly, because I think when you're trying to gauge what you're capable of doing, you need to gauge it against the competition that it's going to take to beat in Big 12 play. So when I look at the Texas Tech game, I think Ting really had a coming out party, because I think that when you do that against teams that you're bigger than, stronger than, you have all the physical advantages. It's different than when you do it against a team that is veteran, that has 9 seniors, and so I thought it was really good to see her really shine. I think defensively she's got to continue to get better. She's got to not give up back cuts and communicate better and not miss switches and things like that. But I thought offensively she was super productive.
21 points, obviously her best game of the year. Were there things she did that led to that you liked, not just the scoring, but what led to that itself?
Yeah, I thought, even getting downhill early in transition when they were pressing, when she had to bring it down, or when we were able to early up, and for her to attack. I think the thing we lost with Talia, is our best downhill attacker, the kid that's going to put pressure on the rim, and draw fouls. I look at the Texas game, and she played 14 minutes and drew 6 fouls. And so, you've got somebody that can create foul pressure. She can shoot it, but I thought she aggressively searched her shot and did a better job off the bounce at getting downhill and finishing. And so she has to continue to learn to use her frame. She has an elite frame. She has elite balance. And so, but there's a time and a place. She's uber finesse, and there's a time to just not be finesse. Talia can find angles and finesse it up on the rim, but she can also play through your chest and draw a foul. And that's the balance that Ting needs to find in terms of when is it okay to Euro and play around somebody, and when is it time to use the frame that you've been given and play through contact and get and ones.
Do you expect a response from this team after, you talk about one stop, one play against Texas Tech, from the seniors especially? Have you seen a response, and do you expect one from kind of your team going into this tough road trip?
Yeah, I mean, it's a Oklahoma State is they're first to the floor. JC does an unbelievable job of teaching her players to set screens, to use screens. They know what their strengths are. They're leading the nation in three-pointers made. And so they're going to stretch you out. And they do it a little different every year. And I will say I think she's one of the really elite coaches in the country because regardless of what her team looks like, she finds ways to make them really, really good. They lose a 6'7" kid that anchored them a year ago, and now they're playing a 6'1" forward at the 5, and they're stretching you out and attacking and kicking. And it's one of those games that it's no mystery to say you got to make them go 2 by 2 by 2 because when they get going from 3, they're going to put 90 on you. And so I think we had a really balanced first half against them last year here, and then they took it to us in the second half. And I thought it took us 5 minutes in the game in the Big 12 tournament to respond because they hit first. And a lot of that is the way Staley Hurd plays and the physicality, and even though her numbers are down, you just know she drives them. And then I just feel like them adding the Whiting kid, who understands our league, who's been a starting point guard in the league, who's a coach's kid. I think she defines their toughness. She sets the tone for them defensively, but she's really elite at getting a piece of the paint. And so it's going to be a challenge for us. Win or lose, we were going to get super challenged by them because they always play downhill. And when you make mistakes, you give up threes. So, and they do a good job of playing scouting report defense. They're going to guard certain people hard. They're going to play off other people. And so you got to work to get great shots against them.
With Baylor, the men's team signing James Najee, and then obviously the WNBA pick at Kansas State, I'm curious, in this new age, has your recruiting outlook or strategy changed, and what are your thoughts on kind of NBA and WNBA picks kind of coming back to college in a way?
I thought of everything I've read, and this is not me saying what the men did or didn't do. I don't really have an opinion, to be honest with you. I think we're in a massive area gray right now. And, I think when I look at, the men having 7 players, I think you do what you have to do to give yourself a chance to be competitive. People buy season tickets. They want to see good basketball. Scott's won a national championship. So he knows what he's doing. I just think probably Dan Hurley did the best job of talking about what we're all dealing with. And it is absolutely has nothing to do with us not wanting to empower young women or young athletes and their ability to make money. I think it's just the idea of the rules keep changing or there are no rules. And I'm not sure which it is. And so when you know what you're dealing with, you have an opportunity to compete. When you don't know what's going on or what's coming next, it makes it a great challenge to do your job and do it in a way that's truly transformational, which is, I can't say that about every college coach, but I think the majority of coaches that got into college coaching got in to help young people, to teach young people, to help young people grow up and to teach them the game of basketball and how, that can translate to life lessons. And I think the unique challenge for me and for people that really care about young people is, are we setting them up for success? Or are we setting them up for failure? And that is my greatest fear with what's going on, is are we going to send them out into the real world and, they have to get a real job. And I'm not suggesting they don't work for their money in college. That's not the point of this. But I do believe that I want every player that puts on a Baylor uniform to leave here and be prepared for what's next. And, when you get in this portal world and everything else, are we doing that? And so I've coached with a collective bargaining agreement. I worked off a hard cap. I don't have all the answers. There's smarter people about that than me. But I do think the world we're living in is very uncomfortable and not realistic long term. And I just hope that people smarter than me figure out how to keep young people the priority, how education stays a priority, but that we do right by them as well. Like, this isn't about not having them have opportunities, whether it's NIL or otherwise. I don't know if that's the question you asked, but that's...
It's great. Great job, Coach. I did want to ask about can your defense travel to Oklahoma State? Obviously, you mentioned all their prolific scorers, but they're number 3 in the country in terms of scoring offense. How important is defense going into this game?
Well, I think, it's always been a cornerstone of our program. I think, regardless of the team we've had, whether we're more of a charge-taking team or rim-protecting team, whether we've played gap or whether we've played deny, like, it's always been a priority for us to take away a team's number one option, and so there's no doubt if you want to beat them, you have to take the 3 away, or you have to limit the 3 or contest the 3 or all of the above. And so our defense has to travel, and I think it's, for the most part this year, it's been pretty solid. You look at our game, I think our defense kept us in the game against Texas Tech. And, we just have to play without fouling, and I thought the last 2 calls of the game, I thought, Kyla had a clean block, and I thought, the last play, I don't think it was a foul, but you play the game that's in front of you, and if you have a 2-possession lead at that point, you don't have to worry about that foul. So, I think our offense has to be more consistent, and so that we don't, but we're always going to rely on our defense. Like I've always said, we want to be a program that if we have to win a game in the 50s, we can do it, like Duke, and if we have to win a game in the 80s, like we did a year ago against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 tournament, that we can do it, and so, but yeah, it has to travel.
Back to the previous question, does your experience in the WNBA, does it help in this new college world?
I wish.
Yeah.
I wish I could say it did. I think the concept of working with players and players making different amounts of money and all of that, I think does. But, when you work off a hard cap and you have true free agency, where certain players are signed 2-year and 3-year deals, and you have rookie contracts that are 4-year deals. If we had that, if we were signing players to multi-year deals and they were staying and there was a penalty for leaving and things like that, worst case scenario in the pros, players force trades. And while your value of a trade, oftentimes if a player forces it, isn't equal, you still get something. You get a draft pick, you get a solid player. I mean, you hopefully do a good job with your star players in the pros so they don't force their way out, because that's when you really lose. When Elena Deladon wanted to leave Chicago, it hurt them. When Sylvia Fowles wanted to leave Chicago, it hurt them. But ultimately, some of those key players like Ka Copper and Stephanie Dolson were really good players for Chicago. And so does it impact the way I think? Probably too much, because I think too much like it should be and not enough about how it is. And I don't know if that makes sense, but to me, it is not complicated to say, here's my rev share number, this is what I have, this is what I think someone's worth, this is what, but the unique challenge of that is telling parents. I had a parent ask me the question, how do you determine her value? How do you determine her value? Like, who sets it? Does the market set it? And I'm like, to me, that's not a hard question, but it's sometimes hard to hear, because I'm not devaluing a player by offering them less than somebody else. I'm saying I prioritize retention. We've have this much that we feel like is going to return, and there's this much left, and I want to sign 3 players, and so I have to figure out how to strategically do that. Unfortunately, that's not how it is in this world we're in. People are working off some numbers, like people announce rev share numbers on the women's side of 300,000, and then they offered a player more than what their published rev share number is. So, or like everybody's not working with the same pot when it comes to outside NIL and did people front load this year and how much did they front load and how does that impact their rev share number for this off season when the portal comes. And so the one thing I try to do, I'm a nerd for information. The more information I have, the more comfortable I am. But this is one of those things that you can gather information and you still don't know what's real and what's not. You know, like, did that team, you know, I've had people say they were offered a certain amount of money, and I say, if they did, you should take it, because, like, wow, good for you. But it's not real, you know? So you also have that kind of game going on within the game. So, you know, does it prepare me? I mean, I think in some ways, like, I'm more comfortable with the idea. I just think we had rules. You know, and did people get around the rules? Have there been tampering cases against people when the Las Vegas Commission wants to offer all their players $100,000, you know, to represent the city of Vegas, and then there's a lawsuit or a complaint because that's tampering, that's collective bargaining tampering, but people are going to turn you in for that in the pros. So, like, I just don't think we even know how do we do that right now? Like, we haven't even signed off to be really, like, have the CSC really be the enforcer. Like, we haven't signed that. Like, so what do we have? I mean, you know, I'm going to go get Tiffany Hayes to come play. Surely she's got eligibility, a COVID year or something.
Maybe a little off topic, but going back to opportunities, your former assistant Sophia Young Malcolm running an all-girls clinic in Waco this week. What do those clinics mean to up-and-coming athletes, and especially all girls clinics?
Well, I think a lot of that goes to who Sophia is. You know, I think she cares about young people. She wants to use her platform and the success that she had and the name of who she is to help other people. Her story is pretty incredible in terms of, you know, where she came from and where that led her to. And so I think anytime you have someone that has the accolades that she has, but has the heart she has, she's going to help young people. And so, you know, opportunities for young people to see what it looks like to train, see what good basketball looks like. You know, I mean, I've always said it, you've got to see it if you want to be it, you know, and if you don't, how do you know? You know, I think it's a big part of hopefully getting young people motivated to see basketball as something that can impact their life. You know, there are so many studies about leadership positions and women, and they all played sports, you know, and so getting girls involved at a time where there's so many other things and easy ways to not stay engaged, and whether it's basketball or something else, our female CEOs, our female leaders all played sports. They all learned leadership. They all learned lessons. And so I think opening those doors is really awesome. So I'm excited for what Sophia continues to do in the community. Thank you.